You say that you're more liberal or less liberal than AOC, Nancy Pelosi. Where are you on the ideological spectrum?
I consider myself a pretty strong progressive, but I also don't consider the left-center spectrum to be the most useful way to look at our politics right now, because I think it's gotten jumbled up both by the current president and by the pace of change. So
do you consider yourself more of a centrist?
Again, I don't find these labels very helpful, but I would consider myself more of a progressive than a centrist. Look, in South Bend, I wouldn't be able to govern effectively if I couldn't work well with independents and Republicans. But I didn't do it by pretending to be more conservative than I am. I actually don't believe that the best way to reach independence today is through ideological centrism. I mean, mathematically, you look at the numbers in my county, and it's very clear that there are a lot of people who voted for Barack Obama, Donald Trump, Mike Pence, and me, which indicates that voters, especially voters in the heartland where I come from, don't necessarily make their decisions by just lining everybody up on an ideological spectrum and then looking for the dot that's closest to where they are. But yeah, push come to shove, in terms of my orientation, I'm going to come at most of these policy questions from a progressive angle.
All right. Okay. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I just wanted to ask also, Donald Trump's been pushing, as have Republicans, has been pushing the line that Democrats want to turn America into a socialist country. Yeah. Do you think moving towards socialism is a positive step for the Democratic Party? Do you think moving towards socialism is a positive step for the Democratic Party?
I think it's a word in American politics that has basically lost all meaning. And that began when a conservative proposal, the Affordable Care Act, which was developed in the Heritage Foundation, began to be described as socialist by conservatives who were opposing it. Look, I know that for years socialism has been used as a kill switch to just stop an idea from being talked about. But I think if you're from my generation, the real interest is an idea good or not? And I think Democrats are going to be willing to talk about ideas that somebody might try to demolish by claiming they're socialist, but we don't care whether it reads to some conservatives as more socialist or not. We care about whether it works.
So does capitalism work? Does American capitalism work?
Yeah, American capitalism is the most productive economic force known to man, but we also know that it can create massive inequality, and frankly, it can destroy itself if you don't have, as one law school puts it, the wise constraints that make people free, right? I think there's a generation of people who grew up at a time when you had communism and socialism on one side, you had democracy and capitalism on the other. I think today we're negotiating the tensions between democracy and capitalism. I'm committed to democracy. And the biggest thing we have to ask ourselves is, if there is a tension between them, do you care about capitalism more than about democracy? Or do you care about democracy more than you care about capitalism?